she was just jogging in broad daylight. And she was brutally murdered. How can you live with that? You know, there are cases that make a country stop. Not just because the victim is so young, so innocent, but because the way they died leaves behind questions that no one can answer. Today's story is like that. A murder in broad daylight, in a place that was considered the safest, has shocked the whole of Ireland. And that victim's name, Ashling Murphy, has now become a symbol of the pain, the anger, and the determination of a generation to change. Ashling Murphy is only 23 years old. She lives in the town of Tullamore, in County Offaly, a peaceful part of Ireland where everyone knows each other. Ashling is not only beautiful and talented, she is also the daughter that any family would be proud of. Since childhood, she dreamed of being a teacher. And not long after graduating from university, that dream became a reality when she was accepted to the National School. Colleagues say that, although she has only been working for a few months, Ashling has become an indispensable part of the team. She is dedicated to her students, always trying to help them develop their full potential, not through pressure, but through her own efforts. She learned to play the most difficult instrument, the uilleann pipes, just to prove to her students that nothing is impossible if you try. Ashling loves music. Her mother, Kathleen, is her inspiration. From singing, playing the violin, joining the orchestra, sports clubs, to performing at traditional festivals, she is the heart of every stage where she stands. And with her family, she always makes time. Dinner with her parents, outings with her sister Amy, her brother Cathal, or sweet moments with her boyfriend Ryan. They fell in love when they were in school. Break up, then get back together. This time, they were sure about the future, engagement, building a home, having children. On January 10, 2022, Ashling stopped by Ryan's house to drop off some things. His family was quarantined because of COVID, so they only said a few words at the door. Ryan said, "I want to hug you for a long time." Ashling smiled slightly, "See you in 10 days. They had planned to travel together after everyone got well, but 2 days later, all plans turned to ashes. On the afternoon of January 12, Ashling finished her teaching session and prepared to go jogging, her daily habit to relax after work. She chose the familiar route along the Grand Canal, where many locals still walk their dogs or exercise. Before leaving, her mother had a bad feeling. "Don't run there, there's another place?" But Ashling just smiled, "Mom, I'm 23 years old. Don't worry." 3:15 p.m. Two women were jogging along Fiona's Way, named after a past missing person, when they saw an abandoned bicycle on the side of the road. Strange noises coming from nearby bushes. Crying. Struggling. At first they thought someone had fallen off their bike and needed help. But as they got closer, the sight before them haunted them forever. A man was on top of a girl, his face full of rage. He turned to look at them, gritted his teeth and growled, "Go away." One of them noticed the necklace around the victim's neck with the name, Ashling. They had no phones with them. They rushed to the nearest house to call for help. But by the time the police arrived, Ashling was no longer breathing. She had been stabbed 11 times in the neck. Strangled. Blood loss was too much. Her keys, her last weapon of defense, were strewn near her body. Data from her Fitbit showed that the run had started at 2:51 p.m. Moved erratically for about 30 minutes, then stopped completely at 3:31, the exact moment her heart stopped. The news spread at a terrifying speed. Irish media called it a daylight horror. Internet users, especially women, flooded forums with grief and anger. No one could accept that a good girl, jogging in broad daylight, in a familiar place, could be brutally murdered like that. At the primary school where Ashling taught, first graders asked, "Where is Miss Ashling?" They could not understand. Their beloved teacher was gone forever. Ryan, her boyfriend, was almost devastated. "We had planned our whole lives. Now, I have to live a life without her." This story is not over. Because justice has not come. The killer has not been revealed. But the whole of Ireland has begun to wake up. Women have spoken out. There is no safe place for us anymore if things continue like this. Candles began to be lit, not just in remembrance, but also to illuminate the darkness that lurks somewhere, where the killer still roams. The killer had left no clear traces. No weapon. No motive. No connection to Ashling Murphy. But he had killed her in broad daylight, in a crowded place, and then disappeared into thin air. The Irish police, the Gardaí, immediately launched a massive investigation. All the National Special Forces, including the Criminal Investigation Department, were brought to Tullamore. From the locals to the government, everyone wanted one thing: justice for Ashling. The first information the police had came from two female witnesses, the ones who had discovered the attack. They described the attacker as a strange man, wearing a blue bomber jacket with a distinctive stitching on the back. Next to the scene, there was a Falcon Storm mountain bike, straight handlebars, green frame, believed to be his. Gardaí began collecting CCTV footage, tracking everyone who had been near the road that afternoon. They searched for every green bomber jacket and every matching bicycle. And then, from a seemingly small clue, things began to unravel. One of the most important pieces of data came from Ashling's own Fitbit. She had started running at 2:51 p.m. The erratic movements began then, lasting exactly 30 minutes. Then it stopped completely at 3:31 p.m. No heartbeat. No movement. That was when she was killed. This data matched the time when two witnesses saw the attack. And more importantly, it narrowed the time of the attack down to a very short window. The police were convinced the killer did not know Ashling. He had chosen his targets at random. He had probably followed several women before. An appeal for witnesses was broadcast on all TV stations. Even if you see a stranger, a bicycle, or unusual behavior, please call us immediately. The police believed he might be injured. Ashling had fought back with his keys. They were looking for a man with cuts or abrasions, particularly on his face or stomach. A man was arrested shortly afterwards. He was 40 years old, had been near the scene, and matched some of the initial descriptions. His name and photo were posted online, and he immediately received numerous threats. But within hours of the investigation, the Gardaí confirmed he was innocent. He was taken to safety, but his reputation had been severely damaged. The police were forced to issue a warning about cyber trials, where a single rumor could ruin an innocent person's life. The case was deadlocked. But then, a twist occurred. 2 days after the murder, a 31-year-old man walked into a hospital, quite a distance from the scene. His face was scratched, with deep cuts on his cheek and stomach. The nurses saw something was wrong. He was evasive, unable to explain how he had been injured. When asked, he said he had been attacked by a strange man wearing a mask. But when the police arrived, he changed his story. "I don't remember anything. I don't know who Ashling is. I don't speak English. But when the police showed him a photo of Ashling, the man's reaction was incredulous. He was shaking. Silent. Later, he said he had tried to save Ashling from another attacker. "I tried to stop the bleeding," he said. "I didn't hurt her." A moment later, he changed his story again. "I did it. I killed her. I'm the killer." He cried as he spoke. "I was panicking. I didn't know who she was. I had a knife. As she walked past, I stabbed her." The police took DNA from the man, and the results were indisputable. His DNA was under Ashling's fingernails. She had scratched, fought to the end, and left evidence. The man's name was Josef Puska, a construction worker, originally from Slovakia, who had moved to Ireland in 2015. He lived with his wife and 5 children in Tullamore, just minutes from where Ashling was murdered. On January 17, Josef was formally arrested for murder. But he began to deny the charges. He returned to his old story. "I don't remember saying that. I was injured, in pain, not in my right mind when I spoke to the police in hospital." He hired a lawyer. His legal team argued that he was delirious from the painkillers, the surgery, and the language barrier. "You can't rely on those confessions," they said, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. DNA matches. CCTV footage showed him stalking several women that day. One female witness said that, while out for a walk, she saw Josef slowing down on his bike beside her, staring at her, a look that sent a chill down her spine. Then he reappeared behind her, this time pushing her bike. She was so frightened that she ran towards a nearby man. Josef disappeared immediately. The police believe he had been on the hunt all afternoon. He watched, picked his targets, missed a few, and then when Ashling appeared, he struck. The painful truth is, Ashling had not been chosen for any particular reason. She just happened to be passing by at the time. In the days that followed, tens of thousands of people across Ireland held vigils for Ashling. Candles were lit in every street. At school, first graders drew portraits of Ashling, holding them up as the funeral cortege passed. A minute's silence was observed at 11 a.m. across the country. The President and Prime Minister attended the funeral. Ryan, the failed partner, stood up, tears streaming down his face. "She was the love of my life. I just wish that one day, we could meet again and fulfill our unfinished dreams." But justice did not stop there. Those who helped Josef escape are also being investigated. Some are accused of deliberately withholding information and obstructing the investigation. Josef, the murderer, still tries to deny his crime, but the truth cannot be hidden forever. On October 17, 2023, nearly 2 years after the murder of Ashling Murphy, the trial of Josef Puska officially began. He entered with shaking hands, but his face showed no remorse. He said he didn't remember anything, that his confessions in the hospital were under the influence of painkillers, that he had just had surgery, was not clear-headed, and was being questioned while not understanding the language. His legal team even brought in a specialist from England, Dr. Jon Grundling, to testify. The doctor said there was a possibility that Josef was mildly confused because of the OxyContin he had taken after surgery. But when pressed, he himself admitted, in the medical records, there was no sign that Josef was disoriented or mentally disturbed. The prosecution, however, did not let that derail their case. They had more than 60 witnesses. They had camera footage of Yosef following 3 other women on the same day that Ashling was murdered. They had descriptions from witnesses that matched his gait, his clothes, his bicycle. They had his DNA under Ashling's fingernails, where she had struggled, scratched, and fought to the last breath, and they had an undeniable confession. Yosef had said, "I saw a girl. I had never seen her before. I stabbed her in the neck. She was panicking. I was panicking." Then he asked the police, "How many years am I going to jail? 10 years?" In court, he changed his tune completely. Now he said, he was just a passerby, trying to save Ashling from a stranger. Then he said he had been attacked, didn't understand what was happening, and denied ever confessing. The jury didn't need much time. After just 2 hours of deliberation, they were 100% unanimous. Yosef Puska was guilty of first-degree murder, of the highest degree of cruelty. When the verdict was read, the entire courtroom fell silent. Then there was applause. Many people burst into tears. No one looked at Yosef anymore, because, as Judge Tony Hunt said, there is no doubt, evil is sitting in this room. He called his testimony filthy, swindling, disgusting rubbish. The judge made it clear that if Irish law allowed it, he would have imposed a life sentence without the possibility of parole, a whole life order, as in the UK. But current law only allows for life with the possibility of review after several decades. On November 17, 2023, Yosef Puska was formally sentenced to life in prison. During the sentencing, Ashling's boyfriend, Ryan Casey, stepped forward. His voice choked up, "I don't know how you were taken from me. We had so many unfinished plans. You were the light of my life. Because of him, I couldn't marry you. Because of him, I had to find a way to live. Without you, may he burn in hell for 30 minutes before God realizes he's dead." After the trial, Yosef was placed in solitary confinement 24/7, to avoid being murdered by other prisoners. It was reported that he had attempted suicide while in custody before the court. Many in the prison said, "We are waiting for him." The story does not end there. In June 2023, 5 relatives and acquaintances of Yosef were arrested. Among them were his brother, his wife, and several friends. All were accused of withholding information, or obstructing the investigation. In one way or another, justice for Ashling will not only come from a sentence, but also from the determination to root out all acts of aiding and abetting the crime. But deeper than the sentences, there is a question that makes society look back. How could a young woman, walking in the afternoon, in a place that was considered safe, be so brutally murdered? Tens of thousands of people across Ireland poured out to pay their respects to Ashling. Candles were lit in the night. Pictures of the young teacher were held aloft by first graders. A minute's silence was held up in all schools, leaving people speechless. Some asked, why was she running alone in the middle of nowhere? But feminist Laura Bates hit back, that's victim blaming in the guise of concern. Wherever she went, whatever she did, she didn't deserve to be murdered. People even started a campaign, she was just out jogging, and this time, it wasn't a slogan. It was the angry voice of millions of women, who know they live in a society where safety is still a privilege, not a given. The Ashling family, though devastated, has remained remarkably resilient. Her mother, Kathleen, said after the hearing, Ashling was a light in our family. She was a role model to our community. We are grateful to everyone who came forward. All we can do now is keep her memory alive and prevent another woman from having to suffer the same fate. Ashling's sister, Amy, also choked up. As a sister, I couldn't protect my sister when she needed me most. But now, I will protect her memory. For the rest of my life, Ashling Murphy is no more. But her life, the music she played, the love she gave. Awaken a nation, from pain, Ireland rose, from a case, millions began to talk about safety, justice, and truth. Ashling, 23, became an icon for a generation, not because of her death, but because she deserved to live. If you find this story moving, like the video, subscribe to the channel and share it so more people know about Ashling Murphy. Speak up for those who no longer have a chance, and remember, even a small light can light up a nation.